Hi there. Chris Myers here again with another episode of the Cinema Shame podcast. I'm here live, backstage at this year's Rose City Beauty Pageant, so I'm gonna have to keep it short today. Oh, I found your Mount Rushmore cone bra, Maddie! Anyway, today's episode brings us a very special guest, radio DJ and former Miss Universe Canada pageant contestant, Angela Valiant, sits down with us to discuss what else? 1999 dark comedy classic, Drop Dead Gorgeous. Anyway, I gotta go. The swimsuit contest starts in 5 minutes. Like and subscribe and all that now, why don't ya?
Welcome to another episode of Cinema Shame. I'm Allan Mott, joined as always by the ever-lovely James Patrick, and for this special occasion by the super badass Angela Valiant. In lieu of a traditional introduction for Angela, I am going to instead indulge in a long anecdote that will allow us all to understand how we got to this exact moment in time today. We begin at some vague point during the lockdown. Could have been near the beginning or sometime during the middle, who knows? I did not keep notes. What I do know is one day my friend Jess's friend Angela posted, as part of her job as a DJ at an alt-rock radio station in Calgary, a video about washing your hands. In it, Angela suggested that instead of singing Happy Birthday to time the proper amount of hand washing, that you could sing any song you wanted to, and to prove it, she selected a verse from Foo Fighters' Monkey Wrench. Now, I don't know if it was cabin fever or isolation, but the sight of Angela washing her hands while shouting, "One last thing before I quit, I never wanted any more than I could fit into my head. I still remember every single word you said, all the shit that somehow came along with it," struck me as the funniest fucking thing I had seen in a very long time. So I decided to see if Angela had other videos online that I could enjoy watching. And to do this, I typed Angela Valiant video into my browser's search bar. What I found shocked me to my very core. And no, it was not pornography. It was much more shocking than that. What I found was a blog post on a site dedicated to cataloging former beauty pageant contestants. And in this blog post was the interview video Angela made while she competed for the title of Miss Universe Canada in 2009. Of course, I started watching that video the second I found out it existed. The first thing I noticed is that Angela did not look like a typical Miss Universe Canada contestant. While undoubtedly and objectively gorgeous, her look didn't suggest a pageant hopeful as much as it suggested she was playing the role of a prom queen in a Panic at the Disco music video. But what made the video truly amazing wasn't her beauty pageant goth emo aesthetic, but instead the words that came out of her mouth when she was asked to identify her personal hero.
The person in history that I admire the most is Antonin Artaud. He is a French playwright, and I learned about him in school. He developed the theater of cruelty, which sounds a lot harsher than it really is. Really, it's just an attempt to force people to live in the present and at the present moment and take life in as it comes rather than to dwell on problems and sorrow.
Now, I am not an expert on what it takes to win the Miss Universe Canada pageant. But I do know, with all of the certainty that I am capable of, that on the list of wrong answers to give at a beauty pageant when asked to describe the person you admire most, name-dropping the French playwright who created the artistic movement known as the theater of cruelty is high up on that list. Of course, as soon as I saw this, I wanted to immediately talk to Angela. There was just one problem. At that point, I didn't feel like I knew her well enough to suddenly show up in her DMs asking her 1,000 questions about something she did over a decade earlier. No. If I was going to find out more about this, I would have to wait until the universe gave me a sign that the time was right. That time finally came when Angela, now working at an alt-rock station in Vancouver, posted a video where she posed a question a friend of hers had suggested. The question was, which musician songs would you like to be turned into a TV series? I remembered posing a question just like that myself and liked the video. And Angela replied back to say that she was happy I did so since I was the friend she was referring to. Aha! I exclaimed. Angela herself has established us as friends, and I can talk to my friends about the time they were contestants in the Miss Universe Canada pageant. I just had to wait for my opening. And that opening came when my friend Ashley tweeted a joke about competing in Miss Universe. And I replied, why don't you ask my friend Angela about it? Because I know she's an expert. With the floodgates now open, Angela and I were free to talk about this brief chapter in her life. And that's how I learned she only entered the pageant to promote her singing career, only to find out that Miss Universe doesn't actually have a talent competition. So, of course, when we started planning this new season of the podcast, I wanted Angela on because she's awesome. And I proposed that for her appearance, we talk about one of the most unheralded beauty pageant comedies of all time.
And I'm so excited we're talking about Michael Ritchie's Smile. I can barely contain myself. I watched it 3 times yesterday to prepare. Michael Ritchie is like the other Sidney Lumet. Sidney Lumet,
we're not talking about Smile. That's actually, I would say it's a very heralded beauty pageant comedy. It's considered one of the best movies of the 70s by an acclaimed filmmaker.
So you're telling me we're not talking about Smile?
We're not talking about Smile.
So we're talking about Miss Congeniality.
That got a sequel, so I would say that's heralded too.
So Miss Congeniality 2?
No. I'm talking about
underheralded beauty pageant.
No, I'm talking about 1999's Drop Dead Gorgeous, a film best described as what happens when you put Christopher Guest and one of the Coen brothers in a blender and set it to frappe.
Every year, in the small town of Mount Rose, Minnesota, a special competition takes place.
I know what some of your big city no-bra-wearing, hairy-legged women libbers might say. They might say that a pageant is old-fashioned and demeaning to the girls. No, I think you boys are going to find something a little bit different here in Montrose.
Ouch!
But for 2 ambitious girls,
I believe this pageant teaches you what's really important in life.
I dream of getting out of Mount Rose. I mean, guys get out of Mount Rose all the time for hockey scholarships or prison.
Angela, thanks for being here.
Oh my God, thanks for having me. I'm excited. I'd never seen the movie before either, so this was finally...
Well, that's one of the prerequisites.
That's why you're here.
Yeah, that's why you're here. It's like, if you had seen it, we would be talking about probably Smile right now.
Smile, right. Yeah, I'd be right.
And that's, I mean, who knows? Depending on how this goes, we may talk about Smile in the future. Although we wouldn't want to limit you to like beauty. Like, I feel like one beauty pageant thing is enough. After that, we'd have to find a radio movie for you to talk about. So
yeah, I've only done one pageant circuit, and not even a circuit, just the one. So I feel like I feel like I'm not the beauty pageant expert you're maybe hoping.
But well, I feel like you did the big one though. Like you literally did like the one that represents the entire universe. I mean, other ones, represent USA or America or Canada. Like you did the one that represents the entire cosmos.
Well, but it was more like a pre-qualifier because it was the Miss Universe Canada. So it was really just Canada so that I could get the shot to do Miss Universe for the whole universe, which I did not. So
I think we need to talk a bit about your experience before we get into the movie. Like I said, like you told me that you only entered because you thought like you could get some juice out of the talent competition, only to find out there was none. So at what point do you go, oh, maybe I should bail? Or why did you stick with it once you found out that it wasn't what you thought it was going to be?
It's tough because I went to theater school. So I got a Bachelor of Fine Arts, and I did the thing that I thought you were supposed to do when you graduate, which is you get an agent. And then I maybe start booking background roles in TV shows. And I booked an agent that was really more of a modeling agent than a like film or stage agent. And so she kind of like, she was really like boosting my self-esteem. She was like, hang on, you're 22. You have a degree. Oh my God. You're tall. You're beautiful. You seem so smart. You should be doing pageants. You could be winning pageants. And I was like, I'm not really interested in pageants. She's like, we should do that. So she basically signed me up. And it's one of those things where it costs money to actually participate. So for some reason, my parents got excited. And so they got their friends like fundraised for me to go. So it wasn't a ton of money, but it was enough that I was like, okay, some people paid for me to do this. I can't bail. I can't leave. But yeah, I learned really early on. This was actually technically the year I was there was the first year they did have a talent competition. But the way it worked out, we can get into the drama of that later if we have time. But I will say the tap dancing in Drop Dead Gorgeous is painful for me. Okay, it was tough. We can get into that. But I think it was the first year in 2009 that they actually did have a talent portion, which is also what my agent was trying to why she was trying to convince me to do this. But ultimately, only the top 3 talents would get to actually perform at the final show. So you had to win the talent competition in secret, and then you'd get to perform. And let's just say I didn't get to do that, even though I got the only standing ovation in the private. That's fine.
So I'm hearing that it was rigged, I feel, is the general. It's funny you mentioned that because you immediately made me think of my friend Caitlin who was in Los Angeles, and she her primary aspiration, she started coming there to be an actor, but then she really got into writing. But the problem was her agents were still very much in actor mode, and because she's 6'2" and pretty, they sent her on all of these hot girl roles.
Yeah.
And it was that wasn't her. She was the funny goofball. She wasn't the classic, stunner that you're supposed to see in everything. And I think, it's funny how destructive an agent can be when they just sort of have a different motive than the actual person they're trying to promote.
Yeah. Oh man. I got told really early, even by my theater professors, they were like, Angela, you're too tall to be a leading lady. You're never going to be Ophelia, okay? You are going to be the nurse in every Shakespeare. Yeah. You're going to be the funny one. I was like, oh, yeah. Okay. So it was kind of surprising that maybe a little part of me was like, wait, I could be leading lady material. I could be pageant winner material. It turned out I wasn't. Spoiler alert, but there was an option.
Well, and that was because I was a theater nerd too, and my big realization was there's one Danny DeVito, and there's never, and so if I were to pursue acting, the best I could possibly hope for would be a lifetime of playing the hero's funny sidekick. And it's at what point does that grow old? And you just go I just want to get to kiss the girl once,
Well, you covered the Jason Alexander movie.
Yeah. That's true.
Hope.
Yeah, I guess. But he had to wear a hairpiece in that. So, I mean, even then. So, let's get to our subject at hand, Drop Dead Gorgeous. I genuinely feel I actually saw this in the theater the day it came out. So, I have some nostalgia for it, especially because it's from 1999, which us film nerds always herald as one of the greatest years in film history. So when the list of great movies from 1999 is rolled out, this is one that very rarely gets mentioned because it's not considered at the tier of the other stuff from that period. But I actually think it is a genuinely great comedy that I think the tendency is to consider it like a Christopher Guest ripoff. But when you actually look at the timeline, the only film of his that had come out by this point was Waiting for Guffman. Mm-hmm. All of his other films came out after this. And I would argue the film of his that this most closely resembles is For Your Consideration. And I actually think Drop Dead Gorgeous is better than For Your Consideration because they're both unlike a lot of sort of mockumentaries. This one is clearly scripted. It's not one where the dialogue has been improvised. This is one where everyone is clearly saying their lines. But I think the cast is phenomenal enough that they actually get away with it, and they actually
and it's got more.
It's got more teeth. Yeah,
I think than
Christopher Guest. That's why it's sort of I say it has that sort of Coen Brothers edge because I remember the first thing when I saw it in 1999 was they're doing Fargo. Because everyone has the Minnesota accent and they're hitting that same sort of
Shouldn't you just call it Canada
South?
Yeah.
I mean, that is yeah. that is sort of funny because Alberta is called Canada's Texas, But I feel like we also have a bit of Minnesota in us as well.
Oh, big time. Well, I think technically, isn't Minnesota is actually further north than some areas of Canada, just like latitude and longitude wise. I feel like I have.
Yeah.
Minnesota might as well be Canada. Yeah. We should probably take it.
I don't know that we'd miss it, honestly.
No? Okay. That's good to know. I'm happy to know that.
But you can only have Minnesota if you take both of the Dakotas. No, that's a hard no.
Okay.
We are not taking Kristi Noem. We already have Daniel Smith, and that's hard enough for us.
Yeah.
My mom gave me this 9mm for my 13th birthday. Yeah, I always remember what she wrote in the card. Jesus loves winners. That's why no matter what I do, I aim to win.
So as a first-time viewer, Angela, what were sort of your thoughts as you were watching Drop Dead Gorgeous? Like, were you sort of like...
You skipped the first important question. You just
Oh, why hadn't you seen... Why had you never seen
over
it
the first question?
Oh, well, I just assumed it was just because, she didn't get around to it. But, okay, why hadn't you seen Drop Dead Gorgeous until now?
Yeah, so in 1999, I was a bit younger. I would have been in junior high. So I would have been grade 7, grade 8. And I don't know, it wasn't something that was on my radar. Like at that time I was still young enough that if I was scraping together money to go to the movie theaters, I was going to see PG-13 stuff because I was a little too young. And I don't know that a mockumentary, my cat came to visit. I think I would have seen a mockumentary preview and been like, that looks boring. Like I just think I know myself well enough when I was that young that I was like, there's nothing animated. I don't get it. What's the point? But as an adult,
there's no talking cats.
Yeah, there's no talking cats. No sing. Like there was some song and dance numbers, but definitely, I don't think it would have caught my attention when I was in junior high. High school, I would have. University, absolutely. I had kind of missed the boat by then, and like you say, it was unheralded. So I felt like really like no one ever. I've never heard like people talk about this movie until very recently. I would say the last 6 months is the first time that I've heard this movie come up several times. And then so when you suggested it, I was like, okay, this is obviously a sign. I got to see this movie. Everyone's talking about it now.
I think it's one of those stealth cult films where, no one really sort of paid much attention to it when it came out, but just thanks to home video and people just sort of gradually seeing it and remembering it. And also, this is your first chance to see Amy Adams. It's, like Kirsten Dunst at sort of her most charming, and like even like Denise Richards before, sort of the whole Charlie Sheen thing happened. It sort of like has that whole, I think the cast is the thing that really truly elevates this beyond what it probably should have been. Like,
oh God.
And I think that even felt like true at the time. I remember watching it and just sort of feeling like they just managed to get a lot of the right people for this.
Which is, I think, why I'm surprised I haven't heard more about it. Like, how does it not come up more? You've got like Allison Janney, you've got Amy Adams, and
Alan Barkin.
It's insane, the people in this movie. Every person that showed up on screen, I was like, what? Like Brittany Murphy, even?
Yeah.
This is a young Brittany Murphy, and Will Sasso. I was like, what is he doing here? This is amazing.
Harold, are we on cops? Are we on cops? Are we on cops,
Shut up, Hank. This here's business.
Harold, Mom said not in the head.
And Kirstie Alley, who I think was just playing herself.
Yeah.
Well,
that's the disturbing thing. It's like watching it now, that sort of hurts when she says something that's really sort of bigoted. You're like, oh, she's James Woodsing it. She's not actually like playing a character in that moment.
No, I think she was like, this is the only sane character in the production. I have to take this
I will
role.
say, we talked about this in our 1984 episode about sort of moments where actors' egos just sort of wreck the reality of the movie. And I remember seeing this even in 1999. It still hits something now, is the moment at where she's like the host of the pageant, and she shows the photo of her from the pageant, and she goes like, this was 17 years ago. And so you do the math in your head, you're like, well, that makes her character 34. And Kirstie Alley was 48 when this was filmed. And that math ain't mathin'. Like, that's not she's not a 48 that passes for 34. She's a 48 that passes for maybe 44.
Yep, there was definitely some ego in there that transcended personality and entered character.
17 years ago, I won the talent contest by sewing these culottes. Butterick pattern 7432. And can you believe it? They still fit.
So the plot is that it's set at a very small town in Minnesota. They're hosting a local pageant for this. It's a pageant that's hosted by it's run by like an Avon style makeup company, and I think one of the funnier bits is the opening where they show the introduction video where Adam West is the host.
The American Teen Princess Pageant. And now, a few words from last year's host, Mr. Adam West.
The American Teen Princess Pageant has been enriching the lives of American-made girls since 1945.
I think the funniest joke is when they get to the moment where he's supposed to say the name of the small town, and they do this far off like shot of him from a distance, clearly not speaking, and the most like obvious computer voice saying the name of the town. And I think that was like the first time when I'm watching, I was like, okay, this film does know what it's doing, and it is doing some fun things here.
Compete around the country in places like
beautiful Mount Rose, Minnesota.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was, I felt like it was more interesting. I think I'm glad that I didn't watch it earlier. Like, I think it's a movie I wouldn't have been ready for when it came out. I needed to be an adult. I needed to get it. And so watching it now, and I was like, man, this is funny. This is really funny.
And because it's set in Minnesota, everyone is speaking with sort of what we would call the Fargo accent. Everyone except noticeably Denise Richards. And I feel that must have been a directorial decision where the director was just like, you know what, Denise? Your regular voice is fine. And
We know from experience that that's really the only direction you can do.
But actually, I would say that this is actually...
Accents, not her thing.
Yeah, but I actually think this is probably her best role, or her best performance, because, again, the Kirstie Alley thing, you get the sense that she's probably just playing herself in a way, like whenever you see her in a movie and she's supposed to be really like nice and sweet, you go like maybe she is in real life, but she just does not have the presence of like a nice, sweet young girl. She just really does. This and Wild Things, because this was also like that era, and I think she really hits that. I think the one that really sort of is Kirsten Dunst, because this was the same year she did The Virgin Suicides and Dick. And I think that's probably like, you know, everyone's going to talk about like other movies she did, but I think this is truly like the best year of her career, because like you have Dick, which is probably my favorite comedy of the 1990s. I think that is, but it's such a niche. Have you seen that one, Angela? Like that is like one of the most. Yeah, that is, like I always say, like that was one of those movies where they go, okay, we're going to make this for the people whose DVD collection has both Romy and Michelle's high school reunion and All the President's Men in it. And it was like, well, I'm glad I saw it, because I was clearly the only person who was meant to see this movie. But then also The Virgin Suicides, which is a much sort of darker film where she plays a much different sort of character. But I think this really, 1999 really got us allowed to see Kirsten Dunst's range.
Hi, I'm Amber Atkins, and I'm signing up because my two favorite people in the whole world competed in pageants. My mom and Diane Sawyer.
Okay, she's not just the girl from Interview with a Vampire. She is someone who we have to pay attention to, and who is going to be a star for like the years to come. And I think I think that's probably one of the reasons why it is becoming more of a cult film, is that people are sort of in a rediscovery mode with her. Like I think Civil War and Fargo and some of her other like things have really like made us realize, oh, we kind of slept on her for a while.
It's even just her pop culture presence, I think, has been returning, because she's been very like frank about how like, if they wanted to put me in a Marvel franchise, do you have any idea how big that paycheck is? I got a family. Like I want to pay the bills. And so she's become very much this like almost every woman where people are like, this woman gets it. This woman gets it. So she's, I'm here for the Kirsten Dunst revival. I am on board.
Number 1 rule in a funeral home, never sneak up on the living.
And I also thought, like, it was funny, like, I hadn't thought about it until I was rewatching it, that you could almost watch this as a prequel to Civil War. Because she plays like a war reporter in this, and like her whole thing is her dream is that the reason why she enters the beauty pageant is because she wants to become the next Diane Sawyer. Mm-hmm. And the joke at the end is that Kirstie Alley goes nuts and goes on a shooting spree and shoots the reporter reporting the spree, and Kirsten Dunst picks up the microphone and basically becomes a war correspondent in that moment. Garland was not thinking of that when he wrote Civil War and cast her in it, but in my headcanon, that is what happened. Yeah. She has this like traumatic experience, because has her dream come true, and then like 25 years later is in a civil war in America. I mean, I feel like that makes perfect sense if you think about it.
It's our podcast. It's our universe.
Yeah.
We can make it official right
it's
now.
It's canon.
And I don't think anybody is really talking about this. So we can put our flag in this and say we were first.
If we're talking canon, too, I also loved that Amy Adams was playing a cheerleader, because all I could think about was her appearance on The Office, where she also used to be a cheerleader at her high school. And I was like, man, what an opportunity for The Office to have made a reference for Drop Dead Gorgeous, where they could have, like, go Muskies. They could have done something like that. Could have been part of her cheer. Oh my God. I mean, I wouldn't have got it at the time. It still would have worked. But now, if I could go back and watch that episode of The Office, I'd be like, oh, I get it now. That would have been amazing.
Go Muskies! Woo!
I was going to ask you, like, did it take you a second to realize it was Amy Adams, or did you recognize her?
I recognized her immediately. Like, definitely she looks young. They all seem like babies.
Well, she's also a blonde. She has her natural hair color. She's actually a blonde. Like, she's a real life blonde. It's her first movie, so it's literally the first time I ever saw her in anything. I never put her together. It was only when I rewatched it that I realized that I had already seen her in something before then, because she really, like, if you're not prepared for Amy Adams, I feel like a lot of people would be shocked, because she just does not. And also I felt like there's an alternative universe somewhere where this movie was a huge hit, and because of it, Amy Adams was cast in nothing but sex pot roles for the rest of her career. Like, she has occasionally dipped her toe into that sort of thing, but I feel like because she is considered such a great actor, she's not saddled with it. Whereas I think if this had hit at the at that time, she might have been like just been like a sex symbol and not been able, like, she might have been like Elizabeth, what's her face from Showgirls. That might have been her burden instead of like actual,
I think you're right, because it definitely was, that was what was more surprising. Like, it wasn't seeing her kind of natural hair color or that she was so young. I was like, what role is this for Amy Adams? Like, she's normally kind of a sweetheart. Like, she's sort of she still was a sweetheart, I think. I actually loved her character. I thought she was so whimsical, and she was just the happiest of the bunch. Like, even she gets second runner up, and she doesn't care. Spoiler alert, second runner up. She was so stoked. It's hilarious.
And that when I was searching for gifs for a post on this, the first one comes up is her going I came in second, and like her boyfriend walking by third. You came in third.
It's like, no, I'm second runner up. Yeah, I know, it's so funny. It's so good.
Hey, I got second runner up. I got second place.
Third.
Huh?
Third.
Yeah, I got fine.
I assumed you would have gotten the performance where they have blue all over themselves and they're riding the stools with blue all over them.
That wasn't one of them. That wasn't one of them. Yeah.
That's a shame. I saw this opening weekend. I'm not sure I had watched it again until today. So when I saw Amy Adams, like, oh, that's interesting. I had no recollection of her being in the film, so I'm not even sure that I had any idea that that's where she began. And as far as I'm concerned, it was still just Junebug. So that was interesting revisiting. And I would like to add for the Kirsten Dunst note that this era, we'll say, this might be my favorite of her performances looking back on it now. She has to do a lot in this role. She's got to be funny, which she is, but she also has to be the straight man in many ways, so that the insanity around her has that springboard. And she has an emotional story that she has to have with her mother. She has to do a lot for what would probably be considered a dumb comedy.
She's the Jim. She's the Jim. She has the Jim role. She has to basically anchor it and give it the heart, because I think ultimately the reason why sort of we care at all is because she is just so winning and charming that you want her to basically, succeed. And I think that's part of the film's success to me, is how it beyond just sort of the dark humor, it plays as sort of like a class comedy, like a class, like a deconstruction, where you have this small town where there's basically one really wealthy family who has all of this power to the point that they can just flat out murder people. And the cops are like, no, that was just an accident. That, that wasn't a thing. And I think that was like when it actually happens fairly early on, but were you expecting it? When the sort of the tractor explosion happens, was that actually something that sort of shocked you, or did you just go with the flow with it? Or,
I think it caught me off guard. But I didn't. It's funny how even I didn't put together that it was going to be a conspiracy thing. I assumed, I was like, okay, well, it's a comedy, so it's funny that this person who's like, I win all the time, and then it just exploded. I was like, oh, that's just funny. That's funny either way. But then it's sort of like,
exploding threshers is just
funny.
Good humor in
that's
Canada.
Just good.
That's all it is. It's good, innocent
fun. I married a man from Saskatchewan. I get that. That's funny. So it's like, yeah. So I just thought it was funny. My husband heard me say that, so he had to give me some eyes. But so it was funny, on its own, and then kind of the interview with the police officers. It was funny where it's like, we did an investigation. It was determined she was smoking on the thresher, and then even Kirsten Dunst trying to justify that. She's like, she loves driving that thresher, she would never have, and she would never smoke on the thresher. Everybody knows she only has a smoke. It was just this, it was all very, it was almost, it felt like borderline comedy camp, some sort of really traditional, glorious 90s tropes. Even just the end, all of the where are they now hits of of what happened to some of the characters, and not all of them, only a handful of them. But I love that stuff. That's those were the glory days when movies just had these sort of forced happy endings, the Wayne's World mega happy endings. That's a good time.
Well, the one thing I noticed this go around, and I think it was because in 1999, I think I might have noticed it, but it hits so much harder now, is how every character smokes in this movie. And it's not a cool thing. It's basically just a small town. Everybody smokes in a small town. And I think that's one thing that really sort of hit me this view, is now it's and then it becomes a plot point that, oh yeah, no, she was smoking on the thresher. Well, no, she wouldn't smoke on the thresher. But I think the moment it actually you realize, oh, this movie is going dark, is when you have the scene where she's flirting with the cute boy who's into her. And then literally the next scene, because her night job, because she has a bunch of different jobs because her family's poor, and she does makeup on corpses at the local undertaker. And then in the next scene, she's pulls down the sheet, and it's literally the boy she had just been flirting with, and he's been shot in a hunting accident, supposedly. Yeah. And that's when you go, oh, okay, this movie is going there. It's not playing it easy. When one character dies, you're like, oh, okay, they're just sort of being fun. When the second character dies, you're like, okay, this movie is getting dark.
Yeah.
But that scene also gave rise to my favorite quote of the movie, when she says, if this is another stray bullet to the head, I'm going to need more caps.
Great. Oh, man. That was a good one. Kirsten Dunst had some great ones in there where she was like, I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was towards the end where it was she didn't deserve to die in the belly of a swan.
I never liked her, but she didn't deserve to die in the belly of a swan like that.
It's there's just some chaotic dialogue in this movie. I love it.
I actually have to give Denise Richards my favorite line. And it's probably the most tasteless runner in the entire movie is the last year's contestant.
Played by Alexandra Holden.
Who is anorexic, and every time we see her, she's in the hospital being treated for anorexia. And it's one of those things where it's bad taste enough that I actually find it hilarious more than offensive. But it's the moment where like Kirsten has been like showing up to help her like brush her hair every week, and then because the cameras are there, Denise Richards shows up and she gives her a bunch of chocolates. Gives the anorexic girl a bunch of chocolates, and Kristen Dunst says something, and then Denisha says,
"Well, nice, Becky. She's anorexic. She's skinny, Amber, not deaf."
And just the way that was said, like I was just, but also the line before that where she's like pretend, like because like the previous winner is sort of like, "Who are you?" because she's never seen Denise Richards before, and then Richards like sort of plays it off like same gay we play each week, same dippy look on her face. Who are you? Who are you? Like it's sort of like it makes you like certain actors when like sort of directed properly can actually be really funny in the right context. And I've seen like one of the worst movies I've ever seen is a movie called Blonde and Blonder, which tried to be Dumb and Dumber with Pamela Anderson and Denise Richards. And that's a case where the director was not able to properly direct them to say the lines properly in a way that was actually funny. So when you have that sort of like juxtaposition, you really appreciate how much a good script and a good director can make in the performance of an actor whose success is largely based on their attractive features more than necessarily their talent.
Which is why, I mean, she's so perfect for this kind of role. It was kind of like you said earlier, how, she doesn't have to be a nice girl. So it's like, I mean, people who are that hot, no one expects them to be nice. And so she literally just kind of like, it's a role where she does get to do a thing that she was famous for, while also still getting to exercise like a comedy muscle. So I feel like that must be satisfying just for her as someone who wants to make it in the business. And she's like, yeah, I'm hot, but also I could do stuff. I could do stuff too. And then she does. She actually pulls it off really well.
Well, and she also gets probably one of the funniest set pieces, which is her talent performance, where she's like doing like "I love you, baby" to a mannequin of like Jesus Christ on the cross,
dancing with crucified Jesus. Yeah.
Oh my God, I did not know what to expect in that one. I think it was funny listening to all of the her crafted answers during the interview portion are so good too, where it's kind of like, who's your hero? And she'll be like, my mother, because she's like her rhubarb strawberry pie could feed the world. She would solve hunger. She could pray into world peace, and she'll do it while looking beautiful as a wife. Like just sort of, it's the like checklist of things that these people want to hear as an answer, and some of them are sort of that like cliche pageant thing of world hunger, world peace, and then there's also these sort of just like cliche sort of female roles of this Minnesota hyper-religious community. And so it's just that watching her play the game, and she does it so well.
Well, that's because I mentioned in my intro, like the thing I loved most about your sort of video was just how completely wrong-headed your answer was. And so like were there any moments watching this where you were like, oh, that reminds me of like this contestant who I
Are you kidding me? I feel like I resonated the most with Brittany Murphy, except she was having a better time than I was. I was, because she was just like kind of off the walls, where she was answering questions and then just laughing about them, and the judges didn't know what to do. That was very much me, because the video you saw wasn't even my interview portion. That was just their YouTube stuff. So it was like it was a big like press junket day almost, where you went in for like hair and makeup, and then you had to do a photo shoot in a bikini, and then a photo shoot in your ball gown, and then you also had to have a cocktail gown so that you could answer a couple of questions for a YouTube video. So it was just like a ton of things all at once, and that was the last thing of the day, was me doing these interviews, and I was like, this is so stupid. I hate my life right now. But the interview portion itself was very much like speed dating. So there was more than 3 judges for Miss Universe Canada. I can't remember how many. I want to say like 9. There was quite a few. And so they all sat at tables, and then all the contestants sort of lined up, and we had 1 minute with each judge to like ask questions. And I only remember 2 judges. One of them was a very lovely middle-aged man who wanted to ask me about like my degree. So he had clearly read everyone's profiles and actually thought about questions pertinent to every contestant. So I remember him because he felt like prepared and he actually had the only interesting question. And then I remember a former pageant winner herself, and she was one of the judges. And she was so excited when I sat down. She was like, okay, my question is, why are you here? And she was so proud. And 22-year-old theater asshole Angela was like, literally or metaphorically? Like, what are you asking me? And she was like, both. And I was like, well, literally I'm here because my agent thought it would be a good idea. Not sure. Metaphorically, who knows? I don't know. I wish I knew. I was like, this is chaos. This is the dumbest thing I've ever done. So I'm not surprised that I didn't make the top 20. I felt like I didn't perform super well. I definitely did not have the Denise Richards playing the game answers in my back pocket. All I could say was, because I knew they coach you and you're supposed to say, thank you for asking that question. And then you give your answer, but you always say thank you before you answer the question. So it was, why are you here? Thank you. Literally or metaphorically? I have some follow-ups. Like, what are you talking about?
Well, it's funny because I feel like Brittany Murphy's character, she sort of grounds the movie right at the beginning because they do this montage where they interview the camera crew, interviews the various contestants and asks them why they've entered. And her answer is just like, like in this small town, if you're 17 and not a total fry, then this is what you do. And I sort of like, I feel like that was sort of like your same situation. It's sort of like somebody told me I had to do it, so I'm here. And
very much so, which is, I think, that's what I was watching it like, yeah, I'm Brittany Murphy. I'm Brittany Murphy in this movie for sure.
Although I will say, like, I would have also, like, I could see you pegged as the girl who gives the Soylent Green dramatic monologue.
Oh yes, I loved that. Also, she nailed it. It was beautiful. Also, I love that I'm not familiar with that monologue. I don't know if it's like a real piece.
No, that's actually, it's from the movie. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Word for word.
Because I love that it was also, it just felt poetic that it's like the year is 2024. I was like, oh my God, it is. It was just sort of, it felt perfect. I was like, I was supposed to be watching it this year. This is why I took so long.
Well, I did watch Soylent Green for the first time this year, so I mean, it's kind of like adjunct cinema shame, I guess. Is we can just say that, and it serves its purpose.
Hey, I think we have to be. This has to be a safe space to say I haven't seen that one yet.
I haven't seen it either, so I feel like that might be a potential episode to consider. Like, since it is 2024, so.
I just did it. It's done. We've done it. That was it. That was the episode. I watched it.
There's nothing worse one of my biggest pet peeves on the planet is when you tell someone you haven't seen a movie and then they get mad at you for not seeing the movie.
That's why we exist. Yeah. This is the safe space.
It's like, oh, you haven't seen it?
You confess.
You should watch it and then we'll talk about it. That's what the exchange should be. Yeah. You haven't seen one of my favorite movies? Let's watch it together. I don't know. But why are you mad at me for not seeing Good Will Hunting? Ex-boyfriend? Shall remain nameless? God.
Well, no, because we all have our huge blind spots. I think like that's why we sort of came up with James came up with the concept, but it's just the idea that you give a person an excuse to see something they haven't seen, as opposed to like
you put them on a microphone and you ask them, why haven't you seen the movie? And that's the start of it.
I think at the time when I was doing the pageant, the only pageant movie I had seen was Miss Congeniality. And I love that movie. Great movie. And I think I was hoping that my experience in the pageant would be like Sandra Bullock's, and I would maybe come out.
Did you lack Michael Caine? I think you lacked Michael Caine.
It did lack Michael Caine. We did not have a sweet old gay man running the game. We did not. We did not. We had some very, I don't know how vulgar I can get, but we really had some
fucking say whatever you want.
People.
Yeah.
Well, we had some cunty gays. Okay, we had like the choreographer. I love in this movie too. She was hilarious, but she's hard on them.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, she was sort of like, I think she referred to them as cows a couple of times, or like. And I was like, that would have been nice. Our choreographer was not kind. He was, this very flamboyant man who none of us did anything right. And even I probably shouldn't say too, I don't know. I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but there was also someone involved in the pageant who his big opening speech was, if it jiggles, you're disqualified. If anything jiggles, you're disqualified. And I was like, you listen here, middle-aged Santa Claus, you Santa Claus looking motherfucker are going to tell me I'm not allowed to jiggle? It's like, God gave me parts that jiggle. That's what I do.
That's what the tape is for.
Yes. Oh my God.
Did you like, because there are a lot of famous sort of like pageant secrets. They're not even secrets anymore because everyone knows what they are. But the movie does like the whole Vaseline thing on the teeth and that. Like, what did you see any of that at the when you were there, or did you?
The Vaseline on teeth was real, for sure. And honestly necessary too. It's kind of like, it's not just to keep you smiling, it's because you just get dry mouth.
Oh yeah.
Like your teeth get dry. It's and then you get the stuck lip thing that looks really weird. So the Vaseline on teeth was not just it was not a trope. It was actually like a necessity for how happy you had to be all the time. I feel like it was more like do nots, like I don't know why this is in my memory, but Oil of Olay had this body lotion that everyone was all about in the year 2009, and it had a little bit of a shimmer to it. You don't want shimmered body lotion when you have to go on stage, though. So that was a big no-no. It was no shimmer. And I mean, I think everyone kind of did their own little thing, but no, really, the Vaseline on the teeth is the only one that I recognized. Even in Miss Congeniality, I was expecting someone to be walking around with hemorrhoid ointment. Yeah. Not one time.
So everyone had baggy eyes, is what I'm hearing. You were just a bunch of...
we were all very tired.
Well, it is funny because, like I actually really like the choreographer character too, because I think I think this is sort of, if any, like, you haven't seen it, but if this movie sort of takes a sort of a cue from Smile, it's sort of like the choreographer who kind of seems like a jerk, but then ultimately they prove to be sort of kind-hearted and do the right thing in the end. Because there's a whole runner in Smile where the choreographer is basically told that he has to get rid of a part of the stage that he's already trained them on. And he knows that they're going to fall and hurt themselves if he doesn't. And he's basically told like that, like the tickets for that thing is going to be like $1,000 worth of tickets. So if you want that stage, you have to give up $1,000 of your salary. And he does it because he doesn't want the girls to get hurt. And I think that is sort of like, I think that's another thing I like about this movie. It's sort of like there are outright villains in this, but there also are sweet characters like Brittany Murphy's character who like is like, because she doesn't really care. Like she's just doing it to do it. And so when Kristen Dunst is sabotaged and her costume is stolen, then basically Brittany Murphy goes like, well, my costume has been approved, so you can have it and you can win. And also, like, I like her parents are disappointed, and her, like, because her whole arc is that she's become obsessed with New York after going there to visit her brother, who is now a drag queen. And like, sort of like her big punchline is like yelling at her parents, like, Peter is gay, like, as if they didn't know it, like as if this is news to them that, you know,
even
their
the
son
dad's
is a drag
reaction
queen.
to that was so good too, because it's like he doesn't hear it at first, and then she screams it at him. She screams gay for so long, and he still takes a moment and then goes like, it's just, honestly, the comedic timing in this movie, there's so many little moments that I was like, oh, that's unexpected.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you one thing. Peter never would have pulled a shenanigan like that.
Well, you know what, Dad? You know what? Peter's gay. Gay!
So I think that's what's great about this movie, is that there are the big, broad moments. But what kind of gets lost, I think even looking back on it and what I remember from the movie, are it's constant asides. Very low-key comments from... I mean, everybody gets a moment in this movie. Every supporting character gets a moment to have that one line. And they're often not showcased. It's like at the cut. I mean, it's a specific comedic device that they're using here when they cut away immediately after the quote, but it's never like front and center. I mean, front and center, you get dancing with crucified Jesus. I mean, that was my memory of the movie, was Denise Richards dancing with crucified Jesus. So looking back and seeing all these, a lot of them are TV actors, supporting actors. I mean, this is a very much a 90-minute sitcom in many ways. I mean, the director is a TV director, the writer is a writer for television, and you have some TV stalwarts here. And they're doing a lot of sitcom-y things with a big budget. But what that allows them to do is have this dialogue, I think, that gets to be underplayed and overplayed constantly. And you have this give and take. And I think that's where the movie is so utterly charming, is when you get lines like Brittany Murphy tossing out, like, oh, they just had me because my brother needed the kidney.
Amber, I'm not going to win, okay? And let's be honest, the family only needs one Liza, and Peter's got much better legs than me, okay?
Your parents would kill you.
Nah, come on, I love them. But you know they only had me because Peter needed that kidney.
Yeah, I know, that killed me. Oh my God.
And that's like the third comment that's like downplayed in that conversation. Like she has a big moment and it keeps going and then it ends with that.
Mm-hmm. Well, the thing I really liked about her character introduction is that like there are some like cringe moments in there, especially like the use of the R word.
A lot of that. I noticed that, yeah.
But I feel like that is region and era appropriate. Like it's only sort of like, it's really offensive now watching it, but like at that place and time, that is exactly how, you know, people in Minnesota would speak in 1995. But
well, if this movie were more popular, it would probably be erased from the earth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are some lines that you hear now, and it's like a red flag for us now because we've been so trained. Yeah. By culture to recognize these things, and at the time I don't remember thinking anything untoward was going on, because that's how I honestly thought these people would have talked. It's Minnesota. I'm from Michigan. I know what they're like.
But there's also the moment where basically Brittany is talking about her brother, and she's like showing these photos of him in her drag, and just sort of the pride she clearly shows for him, like. I actually find it genuinely moving. Like, it's just sort of like her delight in it. Like, it's not like, and it's not played off like, oh, she doesn't know, like her parents. Like, she's fully aware of like what, but it's just sort of like, that's like
here's Pete as Liza. Here's Pete as Barbara.
Yeah. Here's him as Madonna. And that's why she's doing New York as her talent thing, is because she loves her brother so much that she aspires to be like him. Which, for like a movie from 1999, like a character doing that about their gay brother, that was like pretty revolutionary for like 25 years ago. And I think that's, you know, so it's sort of like, it's moments like that offset like sort of the anorexia runner and sort of the and like even like the
and Sam McMurray walking around saying, you don't Jew me down on that price.
Yeah, there's definitely, it's a movie they wouldn't make today. There'd be a lot of changes, but that is almost a little bit part of its charm, right? Where you're like,
well, and that's the point.
Oh
like,
man, this was a moment in time.
Like those family, like that family, they're assholes.
Yeah,
like it's sort of like it's not like like there's some movies from the 80s where the heroes talk like that.
Yeah,
and that's when it's problematic, is when we're supposed to admire and like the people who speak that way. Whereas in this, it's sort of like, like whenever Kirstie Alley talks, we're supposed to hate her. Like she is not supposed to be a good person. Same with Sam McMurray. But I definitely feel like this movie has some secret heart, but also I think talking about like sort of like that like broad and like sort of like intimate at the same time. We haven't mentioned them really a lot yet. It's like Ellen Barkin and Allison Janney are just like.
We need to talk about Ellen Barkin for a sizable portion of this podcast right now. In that she is my favorite thing in the entire world in this movie.
Oh, she's amazing.
And I'm not sure, I was trying to think back here without digging too much into it because I just didn't have the time. But I didn't know where she was in her career at this point. I don't remember Ellen Barkin.
This was
the
a
mid
fallow
to late
period
90s.
for her. Like she was sort of like she had her like 80s peak, and
yeah. But my God, when she has my favorite line delivery, and it's just a simple thing when she says, "Go get my smokes." Yeah. Just the way she says it, like the staging of it, like perfection. And then you've given her a role where she's blown to bits and fuses her hand to a can of beer.
Oh, and the fact
eventually has it cut off, so she has a stub.
It's like, it's even that she has to have like a heart-to-heart with her daughter while her hand is fused to the can, and in the shot, I was like, this is amazing.
Well, I think the thing I like about is that the movie just presents them as who they are without judgment. Mm-hmm. Like, especially like Allison Janney's character, she's slutty. And but that's presented as just this charming aspect of her. Like she's just going to, like, she likes men, and that's how she's going to act. Like she actually, like, the first time you see her, she like invites the camera crew to like give her a ride home, and Ellen Barkin is sort of like, she only lives 2 trailers down, guys. Like it's not like it's a far trip. And like the scene where they're at the state pageant. Mm-hmm. And she's with the bartender, and just sort of like if you catch this in your mouth, like, we'll give you a treat. And he does, and so she kisses him, and then in the next scene you see her, she's coming out of a hotel room with that bartender.
Oh, now her line is like, do you think they heard us?
Oh my God, do you think they heard us?
But they gave her the heart-to-heart moments. Like they basically are able to give her the pep talks in a way that's true to their character and really funny, but also like you generally understand, like, okay, like she loves these people, and so she doesn't want to disappoint them, and also like the joke of like how Ellen Barkin threatens to like marry Kristen Dunst's dad if she gets out of the contest, and it's like, oh, so you don't know her father? It's like, yeah, no, he decided to stick with his career, and Allison Janney is like, yeah, once a carny, always a carny. I love that. And it's like, yeah.
Once a carny, always a carny was one of those lines that I ticked off too. Is like, oh, that needs to be on an epitaph somewhere. It's gorgeous.
And then she has the line about a tilt-a-whirl immediately after
that.
Yeah.
I think it's, that, like, Mom can't even look at a tilt-a-whirl without, I can't remember what it is. Something like that.
Yeah.
Ma still cries when she sees a tilt-a-whirl or a fat lady in a tube top.
Yeah, that's so good. There's also, I do feel like something that I really want to talk about, too, is one of the judges. It's, I obviously went to IMDb so I can try to get some names right. But Matt Malloy, who I just realized while looking at IMDb that his name is John Doe, which is amazing because his whole shtick is that he's like, it's like he keeps calling them young girls, and like it's just he's so pervy.
Well, he's so defensive. Like I'm not here because I'm attracted to young women. Like, why would you suggest that? Like everyone else is watching them too.
Everyone carries a camera in their car. Accidents.
Yeah, it's just this weird little. Which again, it's like, if anything, I think what's funny about that is that there's nothing funny about it really at all, except that it's funny. Like, I think that's what you're like. Oh, that's
I think that describes a lot of this movie. Is like, we're not supposed to be laughing. It's supposed to be horrific, but because of the way it's played, and just because it is like, and also because you get the sense that it is a lot closer to reality than it's easy to dismiss this movie as broad, but I feel like in its heart, it's probably just as true as Smile is in its depiction of like small town reality.
Well, that's the teeth, right? Is that's the bite? That's the.
But also, like, speaking of the judges, you have Will Sasso's character, who that's the reason why the R word gets used a lot throughout the movie, and it's one of those ones where I really wanted this watch to not laugh at some of his stuff, but like I think the loudest I laughed in the theater.
I did.
Like knowing it was coming this time, I didn't respond to it quite the same way. But when in the theater, it's the moment where he's stuck in the door, And then they put the graphic at the bottom, like, as filmmakers, we are obligated to observe and not help. Because he's basically stuck and just looking at them like, why won't you guys help me? Like, I remember, like, howling at that when I saw that.
That was a big laugh for me, too. Also, to be honest, the other big laugh, same kind of moment, is when he's stuck to the car with his overalls. And there's all those all that, like, group of kids starts, like, picking on him. And then it does like a quick cut to the parade, and then it cuts back to him, and all the kids are running away, and he's got one kid in like a headlock, and he's eating his cotton candy. I was like, that's so candy. Yeah. That's so good.
Help! Hank! Help! Hank! Help! Help! Help!
I was trying to think of who else really stood out to me in that movie. Oh, well, Mindy Sterling, who is like the co-chair of the whole pageant. I love her. Yeah. And even because, I mean, she interrupts right that opening shot with Adam West talking about the pageant. Yeah. And then it cuts to, these are the days of our lives. and Christy Alley just looks at her and goes like, you filmed over with your shows? She gets so mad. It's and the whole time she's just kind of messing things up. And I love it. I love it. She's a little.
Yeah, no, she gets some of the best asides, like when Christy Alley is talking about how like their video store doesn't have a back room, and like some of those other big cities we can talk about, and she's like
you specific.
Paul,
she name drops St. Paul specifically is like where those pornos are.
The other one, watching it this time, I don't think I noticed it the first time I saw, but watching it again, a few days ago, was the actress who does like the meat commercial. And it's because she's the wife from Fargo, and you realize that she actually is a Minnesota-based actress. And that's why like her two big roles are in the Minnesota-based films, is because
that makes sense.
But it's like this time I was watching, it's like, why do I know her? And then I realized like, oh, she's the one who dies in Fargo.
Oh, you know what else I loved is the two like teens in the bathroom, like who are just smoking, and for some reason balloons just went up my Skype. I don't know why.
Because you said the word love.
So I loved these two,
it's the hand gestures.
The two teenagers in the bathroom who are just smoking away, and they're like gossiping, and it's this weird thing where they're talking trash about the pageant, how they're like, the pageant is stupid, it's so stupid, but they're so invested in the drama. It feels like they feel like me, someone who's kind of like, oh, I hate reality shows, but I've watched all of Love Island, and you would not believe how exciting it gets when they have to compete. It's kind of like that weird thing where they shouldn't care about it. Like they're literally pregnant and smoking in the bathroom. Like they shouldn't care. Yes, exactly. They are the ones who should not care about this pageant. And yet they are the ones who are like, oh, well, everybody knows who's going to win. Yeah. Like, it's going to be like, they just are somehow invested. I love that. Just that little nugget.
What a surprise. Gladys Lehman's finally going to go to state, and she'll probably ride on Becky's ass all the way to nationals, too.
I wonder how she's going to fix that one.
Are you ladies going to the parade tomorrow?
Nah. I think I'm like due or something.
Well, Ed, were you surprised by the twist, or did you actually see that coming? That because like I think the movie's like it's supposed to, it expects you to think that Denise Richards is the one killing everyone off, but then she dies, and then you realize it was actually her mom doing it all along. Although part of me wonders about like, is there a possibility that they're both in on it? Because I feel like some of the deaths are clearly Christy Alley, but I feel like the boy who flirts with Kirsten Dunst, I feel like that makes more sense that Denise Richards shot him.
I think so too, especially because I feel like it actually foiled the plan of blowing up Amber's trailer because she had to get called to the funeral home. So I do feel like they are both probably killers and both probably saboteurs to some degree. But clearly, I mean, I was a bit surprised by that twist, actually, because I do think I was leaning mostly, I assumed it was mostly Denise Richards. I think that's how they're literally building it up to be like, Becky's doing this. Look at how good she is with a gun. This guy died by getting shot between the eyes in a hunting accident. And like it feels like that's the whole idea. But and then I was surprised. was surprised that Denise Richards won. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I wasn't, but I was surprised. I was like, oh, this doesn't feel like what the movie was going to do. It doesn't feel like, and then it wasn't. So then they take you down. It felt like there was a few different moments where I was like, oh, the movie's going to be over in a minute. Like, it's going to be over soon. And then I was like, oh, no. Nope, they're going to blow up a swan and Denise Richards is dead. And now Amber's going to be she's going to go to state. Because she's the runner-up. That's how it goes. And then everyone at state just gets sick. Like, it's kind of funny. It's just like she's sort of like accidentally winning, which is also funny because I feel like they build it up that she's talented enough to win. Like, she's actually very, very good.
Well, they do play, like, when she gets to state, that's when she realizes that she actually has competition. Like, that in her small town, she's like the clear winner. But once she actually reaches the state level, there are girls who have like spent their whole and actually have like truly like, you know, opera levels of talent and that. So I think there was that runner. But I was going to ask, like, would you think that your pageant would have been canceled if everyone got food poisoning from bad shellfish?
It's a great question.
Is it? Is that a great question?
Probably not. I don't feel like they're... It's an interesting
I'm just saying, like, was there a potential scenario where, for whatever reason, you were the one person who didn't get the lobster, and like, could you have potentially won if like you were the only one who wasn't violently throwing up?
No, I also don't think anyone would have dropped out. Like, I mean, it's the whole anorexia running bit was also it was painful because I was like, at the time, I'm sure, I don't know what pageants are like nowadays, but I do know that in 2009 when I was there, I was witnessing some women starving themselves, just like positively. We would be going out for lunches that were paid for us. We were going to these like parties and events and these really cool and like really great spreads. And there was one young woman in particular who had a plate of 4 pieces of cauliflower. And she was like, good, I'm full. And when she didn't make top 20, I remember the words out of her mouth were like, well, I guess I'm just not the body type they're looking for. And I was like, no, you're Skeletor. Like, you have a problem. It's like, it was this weird, it was very bizarre. And she certainly wasn't the only one, but hers was just very extreme. Like, I remember thinking like, this is fucked. This is fucked up. They shouldn't be wanting to promote bodies like that because it's unhealthy, but they also should be, I don't know, there should be things along the way to maybe intervene, or maybe a part of the pageant thing is just healthy eating and like balanced eating instead of starving yourself so that you're going to look dehydrated and starving in a bikini. It was like, yeah. So I don't think they would have canceled it if everyone got sick. If everyone got sick, they'd be like, great, everyone on stage is going to lose 3 pounds. This is perfect.
That is, I feel like the one thing that sort of really dates this movie is that sequence, because the puking is sort of really, really like sort of tamely done. Like if they were, it's basically like people obviously like spitting soup out. Like that's like sort of how puking was done in the back day. Like if that was filmed today, every one of them would be like there'd be a puke cannon, and it would be like, you know, just sort of like a fire hose.
Wait, are you saying you want?
I'm saying there would be more puke. There would be a lot. I'm not saying. I'm not saying what I want.
Comment is going. But do you want more puke?
I'm just feeling like if you're going to go, like, if that's going to be your plot point, then you basically have to have people like basically like
are you
doing
like
fire hosing out. Yeah,
Mr. Creosote levels of vomit is what you want.
Allan Mott.
There's not enough puke in movies today, or there's too much puke in movies today. We're not sure.
We're not sure, but he feels a way about it.
I just feel like blockers set a standard that other movies have to be judged by, and I feel it does not meet the blocker standards. It doesn't even stand by me standards, to be honest. So, like if we want to go by a film that predates Drop Dead Gorgeous.
Yeah, no, this was overall like fun movie. I'm like, this needs to go into my rotation. I just feel like this needs to be an annual watch now.
Now you have a copy.
Yeah,
so.
Perfect.
How do you feel about sort of the ultimate fates of the characters? Because it is one of those movies that tells you what happens to all of them. Like, did it feel right, or were you sort of disappointed that some stories went where they did?
I don't think I was disappointed. I think it's just like, again, this felt like a moment in time. Like, if anything, I would have loved if the misdirect for Amy Adams is that she actually wound up having the most professional job, but instead she was like, she went into beauty school and she paid her way by being a stripper. You're kind of like, I mean, it's...
And is now currently missing.
Yeah, exactly. I was kind of like, I mean, this works for what they've created for her, but do I think it would have been funnier if she was actually the one who was like, I don't know, if she miraculously like founded her own beauty company or like did something really big, because she was just so happy-go-lucky. I think I would have been excited to see her have like a slightly happier ending.
I think if they made it today, she probably would have become like an influencer. Or
probably,
something social media related.
Yeah, the top rated OnlyFans creator. That would be. Yeah, her character would fit right in.
I do like sort of the prison bit with Kirstie Alley, where she realized that she's now someone's bitch. Yeah. And I feel like that was a good, like, and then she escapes and does the whole like shooting thing that we alluded to earlier. But I feel like I genuinely like this in movies. I feel like more movies should do this sort of thing where sort of instead of doing the thing movies do now where they sort of like explain everything and just wrap it all up. I like sort of like the hard cut and then just sort of like this thing happened to this person, this thing happened to this person, like the whole Animal House
well, it's very like one of my favorite movies of all time is Can't Hardly Wait. I love that movie so much. I don't know why. Again, a moment in time. I feel like I haven't watched it in a long time, and I don't know if I want to because I feel like it probably has some equal.
It's great. I love that movie.
You know, R words and all sorts of, again, moment in time stuff where you're like, we weren't thinking about that at the time. But Can't Hardly Wait does the exact same thing where it's all of those little like the super cuts at the end where it's like, they indeed had sex again and then broke up and then had sex again. And you're like, it's just like silly and stupid. I kind of it's like, to me, the scripted endings in 90s movies and like early 2000s movies is like this, it's sort of like a perfect chaos. It's like a organized chaos of an ending. And I like that.
Yeah. I feel like one of my favorites that people never talk about is, and people aren't even aware of it. It was that there was actually a sequel to American Graffiti called More American Graffiti. And the thing I like about it is that it actually repeats the same sort of ones as in the first film. But this time, because we've seen like a little more glimpses into their lives, they have a completely different resonance than they did in the original film. So it's a case of like sort of just once you learn a little bit more, sort of those explanations become actually like a lot more meaningful in a way they weren't the first time. So like I feel like sequels, like if they ever do a sequel to a movie, you know, that did this, it'd be fun to like have that happen again.
Going to air. Stand by film. 5, stand by music. 4, stand by now. 3, 2, 1. And speed up.
But it's trivia time now, and it's
all right.
Again, because I'm the one who did the trivia, there will be actual answers. They won't be sort of
negotiable.
Like
no, it's negotiable.
Vibe opinions based, but also because I'm doing them, I probably will be telling you what the answer is. I'm like some of these I feel like James might be able to get, and who knows? I mean, I'm hoping Angela will surprise me, but I am
probably not.
Okay, so the first one. Which feminist icon was probably the most annoyed by Kirstie Alley becoming a fierce MAGA supporter, and why?
Jane Fonda.
Close. They did work together.
I don't know why. I can't remember why, though. I do feel like I've actually seen a news story about this, so like I feel like I should know the answer, which is annoying.
Do you have any idea, James? No. Gloria Steinem, who Allie portrayed in the TV movie A Bunny's Tale, based on Steinem's book about going undercover as a waitress at the Playboy Club.
I didn't know that.
Nope.
I like that.
Never would have gotten it.
That was actually the first thing I ever saw her in, was because even as a young kid, I was like, oh, there's a movie about Playboy bunnies. Like, I'm going to watch this. And Delta Burke is one of the Playboy bunnies, so that's...
saw that before you saw her in Cheers?
Yeah, this was before Cheers, yeah. Yeah, no, I saw it when it aired.
That before
I saw it when it aired, yeah.
Yeah, that tracks. Yeah.
To quote Woody Allen's character in Annie Hall, I didn't have a latency period. Like, I liked girls as soon as I knew what girls were. Which Best Actress Oscar winner was also the first runner-up of the Miss USA pageant in 1986, where she represented Ohio?
Ooh.
Ohio?
I threw that in because that actually makes it harder.
In 1986?
Yeah.
Oof. That's the year I was born.
Yeah.
So, oh my God.
We do not allow that as an excuse on this podcast because
I know, that's fair. Do we get like a hint? Can you give us a juicier hint?
She won her Oscar in 2000 for a movie that was made in 2001. Yeah.
It's Halle Berry. It's Halle Berry.
Oh, well done.
Yeah.
I got there through the Ohio. It eventually helped me, but I had to think about it for a minute.
In 1984, future singer and actor Vanessa Williams became the first black woman to be crowned Miss America, but she had to step down as the winner after Penthouse magazine released nude photos she had posed for years earlier. Why is it illegal to own and sell that specific issue of the magazine? Hint, it has nothing to do with Williams. Second hint, the person responsible once had a guest role on Gilmore Girls.
Ooh. I'm wondering if this is like, was this like a political cancellation type thing? Was this the... it's illegal to own this
It's a child pornography thing.
Oh. I don't know enough about the Gilmore Girls to answer this question. Oh.
Any idea, James?
I'm not sure the connection, though. I'm not sure I could get there.
Well, it's because that issue also contains a photo spread by Tracy Lords, who at the time was using forged documents to work in the porn industry, even though she hadn't yet turned 18. But after she turned 18, she started a mainstream career as an actor, and she eventually starred in the Gilmore Girls. But because of that photo spread, which was taken before she was of legal age, that issue is considered child pornography.
Wow. That's crazy. I didn't know that.
Amy Adams made her film debut playing Leslie Miller in Drop Dead Gorgeous. That next year, she starred in these two beloved teen supernatural dramas, one of which Allan loves with all of his heart, and the other one of which he's never actually seen a single episode of.
I feel like I should know this because I have seen a lot of TV shows from that era. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say Buffy.
That's the one Allan loves with all of his heart.
Yes. Okay. And it's two series? Two like supernatural series?
Buffy adjacent, a ripoff of Buffy that somehow managed to last longer.
Charmed?
Yep.
Oh. We did it together, James.
Yeah.
We figured it out.
Oddly, Charmed was the first one I thought of. I don't know why.
Interesting.
Drop Dead Gorgeous screenwriter Lana Williams has a prominent but silent cameo in the film. Who does she play?
A silent cameo?
But she does have quite a lot of screen time.
Oh, is she one of the judges?
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah.
She's the judge?
She's the third judge who works for Becky Ann's dad.
Okay.
The one with the look of derision.
Yeah. So I feel like this is a James. If James doesn't get this one, I will be very surprised.
Oh, that's too much pressure. That's not fair.
Allison Janney had a small role as a klutzy woman with great legs in this political comedy directed by Diane Sawyer's late husband.
Directed by Diane Sawyer's late husband.
I got nothing. This is all you, James.
It was based on a novel that was credited to Anonymous.
With her defining characteristic in the movie is that she has great legs. And that she's a klutz. But I think you're focusing on the Allison Janney part when you should be focusing on the Diane Sawyer's. No, that doesn't help me. I would be better off with the Allison Janney part.
It's Primary Colors, directed by Mike Nichols.
Do I remember that movie at all? I do not.
What Canadian icon bested a villainous Andrew Dice Clay in No Contest, a direct-to-video 90s thriller that can be accurately described as Die Hard at a beauty pageant?
I'm pleading no contest in this one.
Canadian icon, 90s direct-to-video action.
Oof. Oh my God. That's like a beauty pageant.
American Ninja 4.
Thriller?
She's married to a very famous rock star.
Avril Lavigne.
Shannon Tweed.
Oh.
Who I have seen in person, and it does make you realize that a Playboy Playmate of the Year does not look like a real person in real life. She definitely looks like she was sculpted out of something, and you wonder, like, how is that even humanly possible?
Yeah.
The infamous tech bro food substitute system Soylent sells a green-coated variation of its product. What flavor is their Soylent Green?
Their Soylent Green. Let's go with... I'm trying to think of things that are green. Apple.
Think St. Patrick's Day at McDonald's.
Oh, like ice cream? Like a Shamrock Shake?
It's mint chocolate.
Oh, weird. I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
Vivian Baker, Kazuhiro, and Anne Morgan won the Oscar for Best Makeup and Hairstyling for transforming Nicole Kidman into the former real-life winner of the 1989 Miss America pageant for this 2019 movie.
The Hours.
I like that guess.
I just know that she had a lot of prosthetics done.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Bombshell.
It's not correct, but it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh.
Where she played former Fox News anchor and beauty pageant queen Gretchen Carlson. And this is the last one, so that your torture will be over soon. When Angela competed in the Miss Universe Canada pageant, Miss Universe was owned by the co-star of the Bo Derek comedy Ghosts Can't Do It. On May 30th, 2024, he became the first person to achieve this very specific milestone.
I have no idea. I walked away from that life, man. I don't remember anything.
What happened last week that was historic?
I've been out of it, man. Trump getting indicted?
The first former American president to become a convicted felon.
Hey, I can't believe it. Thanks for the hints. We kind of got there. You're just lucky I even opened the internet in the past few weeks. I've been moving, man. That's crazy.
So was there any Donald Trump talk when you were actually at the pageant, or was that just a thing that no one mentioned?
It was very minimal. No one really talked about it because it was very like Miss Universe Canada. So it was like we just talked about. I can't even remember the company that technically ran Miss Universe Canada, but yeah, I think his name came up, but very rarely. It was not a big thing, and he certainly wasn't one of the guest judges. So
yeah. Well, it sounds like you were lucky because he's like bragged on like Howard Stern about how he owned Miss Teen USA and would like just walk into the dressing room and he was the owner and they couldn't stop him. Oh, yeah. And it's and this is the guy that, you know, they hold up as the paragon of virtue. And
yeah, he's a pretty successful con man. He's done a good job.
Well, I just wanted to thank Angela for taking the time to talk with us and to dive deep into her pageant history. And do you have anything you want to promote or talk about, or you just sort of like chill and just?
Well, I guess, I mean, the only update is your girl is fun employed right now. So I was working alt in Vancouver, but things have changed. The industry's changing. So, you know, if you're hiring, let a girl know. You can find me online. I don't do a whole lot on there anymore because I've been busy.
If we've learned one thing from the theme song of WKRP in Cincinnati, is that being a DJ is a nomadic life. And that no gig lasts forever. So,
yeah, ain't that the truth? It's been fun though. This was great. Thank you for the movie suggestion. I loved it. Although I think part of the reason I haven't watched it in my adult life is probably because, again, I was hoping my pageant experience would be like Miss Congeniality. And so watching pageant movies just makes me a little sad because I'm like, God, I didn't have that much fun.
Imagine if we made you watch Smile.
It's a different beast.
What's that one about?
It's very similar, but without the death, and it's much more cinema verite and true to life than...
but still funny.
But it's definitely
that
worth seeing.
Would hit closer to home.
It's still very funny. It's still very funny.
Anything pageant, how can it not be funny? I literally had again, because I did a theater degree. So after I finished my pageant, I had a friend who was like, "How are you not turning it into a one-woman show? Like, write a play."
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to. I'm not ready to relive it. Maybe I am now. Maybe that's what I could do with my fun employment. Angela Valiant, one-woman show. Coming to a theater festival in Alberta, probably.
A local fringe coming to you. I actually had a friend who she once just casually dropped that she spent like a couple months working as a stripper, and she was a writer. And I was like, well, why haven't you written about that yet? And she was like, oh, it's so boring. Like, no one cares. It's like literally everyone would read that article. There's not a single person who doesn't want to read about you being a stripper. And so she did eventually write it. And the actual like thing was like, I didn't want to write this, but Allan Mott forced me to. And everybody loved it. And so I was like, yeah, I forced you to write about something that people are actually interested in. I'm sorry.
Did she write Hustlers? Was that...
Chosen wisely.